Hey, beautiful souls. Angie here. Uh, Man, I feel like we're going through like time warps right now. I haven't been super active in the group. We weren't able to do the conscious conversations last weekend. So thank you for your patience. I'm really excited to get to this conversation today. So Natalie and I are going to be, just want to bring her on here. We are going to be having a conscious conversation about our relationship with assumptions and how we might be confusing that with our relationship with people, which I think is a really cool topic to go over. Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I've had my hands full. I had a baby yesterday, overnight last night, and
Oh, did
it's
you?
like, yeah, you forget, like, just like, oh man, like I just haven't been able to do anything else except for watch the baby. And then it was like 10 minutes before my call. I had a call in membership today, and it's just been one thing after the other. And then from that call, Megan came, and then I went out, and then it was like, oh my God, I have to get home, guys. Like, I'm on a call in 2.5 hours. It's been good, though. It's been a great day. It's just been like, bam, bam, bam. Like, and I was just talking about like time warp. Like, I haven't been very active in the group. So much has been going on. And like, I'm just so excited to be live in the group right now, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Baby overnight. Yeah, that's you forget, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just forget.
you're gonna need a nap after this.
And it's like, and it's the baby, and we have a birthday party to go to too after this. It's not even
Nice.
ending yet. It's okay though. It's good. It's all good. But yeah, you just forget. Yeah, I forget how busy it is, and he's never been with he hasn't been with many people besides his mom, right? So
Mm.
I hold him different everything, like, so he had a hard time
Oh,
falling
yeah, for
asleep.
sure.
Yeah, he had such a hard time falling
Yeah.
asleep, but he woke up so happy this morning, so that was really nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just happy to be in the group. So hi guys. And then I
Yeah.
realized I didn't create the event right away until like 15 minutes before the event.
That's okay.
Oh man.
I'm sure people will get notifications, right?
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's okay. But
And it's always live whenever they're watching
that's
it.
exactly it. They can tune in anytime. So yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome guys. I'm Angie. This is my group, Journey to Soul, A Life on Purpose. This is my cohort here, Natalie Clark, and I'll let her introduce herself. But I'm an intuitive spiritual mentor and an EFT tapping practitioner, and I am super passionate about bringing people together through community to share our spiritual wisdom because we all have these really unique spiritual journeys that we move through. And I think we're here to learn from each other. We're here to do this together, to do this big evolution together. And so I'm just passionate about helping people have a space to explore that within themselves and with other like minds. And we learn from each other. We're mirroring everything for each other, and yeah, that's why I'm here doing this. And I'll let Natalie introduce herself. Excuse
Yeah.
me.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Natalie, and thanks for tuning in. Andrew and I love having this
Yeah.
conversation. And I actually work with homeschool families. I run an online curriculum. Uh, it's outdoor education, and we explore art and science and storytelling um, throughout the classes. And my registration is open for April classes. So these are run on a monthly basis. And parents also get one group call a month. Uh, and then there's just lots of support for the students online too. So I really love nature and the outdoors. And I think that's one of like a key component when we're talking about conscious awakening and
Mm.
all these. There's so much power and knowledge that's found in nature. So I'm just presenting that in a really unique way. So if you're interested in that, just private message me or you can visit my Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I loved when you brought this. when you brought this topic up about, are we in relationship with people or are we in relationship with assumptions? And so much landed when you said that. I was like, ooh, yeah.
Right?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good because, and the first thing that lands with me is, the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I don't know if you've ever read this book. The Four Agreements, though, one of the agreements is to not make assumptions. That is one of the agreements to living. And it's because assumptions create the drama triangle. And when we make assumptions, we make assumption after assumption after assumption. Once we make one assumption, we add all kinds of assumptions on it, and we create this loop of the drama triangle with ourselves and with others.
Yeah, and I mean, this happens. This is so common. I mean, I would say most all humans do this, right? We all have assumptions, even though we don't recognize it, right? Because maybe we're like, well, what my girlfriend is like super messy. Like she leaves her stuff laying all around. But I mean, again, it's that assumption that they're going to behave this way. So, I mean, the question I want to pose to everybody and discuss with you today is, are you in a relationship with, again, like Angie, are you in a relationship with your husband, or are you in a relationship with the assumptions that you attach to your husband, right? Whatever those assumptions may be. But like you say, they build onto one another. And the relationship that we have with our children, right? We always, especially as moms, we believe that we know our kids best. We believe that we know how they're going to react to such and such. Maybe if you're on your way home from somewhere and they ask you to stop off at Tim Hortons, and then you're like, no, because blah blah blah, because you're assuming they are going to behave in a certain way.
You just used that example.
Right?
I did that just before I got home. Oh my goodness. Tim Hortons specifically. Yeah.
Right? So this is, I mean, we could go really deep on this, but that's what, like assumptions. Maybe we should define assumptions maybe a bit more clearly to start off. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, Jordan's watching.
Hi, Jordan. She's 3 hours behind us, so often when we do it in the morning, it's really early for her. Yeah, so hi, Jordan. Yeah, I haven't thought about the definition of assumptions. Assumptions, like, to me, is like, it's something you make up. It's like you make up something and you believe it to be true.
Yeah. You believe, it's what's a story that you're telling yourself about a person. You're expecting them to behave or to say something. You're expecting them to behave in a certain way based on your previous experiences with that person.
Yes, it's a story that gets created based on a previous experience. Exactly. And we assume that that's the way they will behave all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I mean, this is hard to separate because when this landed in me like a couple weeks ago, I was just like, what? I was like, holy shit, I do.
I do that.
Right? I didn't.
Oh, you're cutting out. She's frozen, Jordan, literally. Yeah, literally. Oh no, she's like totally frozen. Natalie, I don't know if you can hear, but you're totally frozen. Oh, there you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
Yeah. My husband's painting in the office. So I don't know if he
touched something.
Knocked the Wi-Fi or something. Yeah. We're back.
We're back. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are some common assumptions that mothers hold, do you think?
That people are going to clean up after themselves. Because here's the thing, we make the assumption, right? We expect, it's like that expectation. We expect someone's going to do something that we want them to do. We haven't told them this, we just expect they're going to do it. So we make the assumption they'll do it, and then they don't do it, and then we take it personally that they didn't do it. That's like the second
Yeah.
step with an
Yeah.
assumption. We take it personally when the assumption doesn't. It's what we believe. Like, yeah, we believe it's true. And then when it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
we take it personally because we believe it's true.
Yeah. And then we lash out to that
And
other
then we lash out
person.
and we become the bully.
And then they have no idea what's going on. And then they're reacting from their own point of view,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's the one
Yeah.
that lands to me. It's like I assume they're going to clean up after themselves. I assume they're going to put their plate, the girls are going to put their plate in the kitchen because I asked them to do it every freaking day.
Yeah.
Jordan, I just do it myself to avoid being annoyed, which annoys me anyway. Yes, that's exactly what happened. We end up doing it and we're not doing it in love. We're doing it in annoyance.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
changed that. I've changed that. Exactly what you're talking about, Jordan. I do it all the time. And a friend of mine, Julie, who's been on here, she's the one that shared with me. Like she now does the laundry in love, and then now it's different, and now she's not angry anymore, and she stops that cycle. But she
Yeah.
chooses. Sometimes
Yeah.
she'll say, no, I won't do it. And so she taught me that. And so now sometimes I go to pick it up because I don't want to fight with Alice. So I'll pick up her plate because I don't want, she's already upstairs. I don't want to yell to her to come back down here and get the plate and hear her go,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to do it, you know? But I will sometimes now look at it and be like, do I want to pick it up? Nope. I'm going to call her and ask her to come down. And then when I do that, she comes down, she picks it up, she puts it away and goes back upstairs. No
Yeah.
drama.
No drama. And that's one of the ways to step out of these assumptions, right? Because notice it within yourself of, again, you could go through the exact same event, right? Like the example that you gave us, but changing your point of view of, oh, there's a plate on the table. Do I want to put it in the dishwasher now? Yes, and do it.
Yeah.
No, then just leave it and go do something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Walk
And if
away
it
from.
feels right to communicate to someone, hey, could you help me out? Come downstairs and help me out in the kitchen, for a couple minutes. Again, if it feels right.
Yeah.
And you always remind us of this, Angie, of like, what's that next action?
Yeah, you can
What's
ask
that
it
next
in that moment.
heart-led action to do, right?
Yeah, the heart-led action.
Yeah, because the assumptions, all of these assumptions, they're all drama. They're all stories that we tell ourselves. Again, based on perhaps that person's previous behavior
Yep.
or just our own stories, right? Of like, oh, well, I don't know, when you were growing up, maybe I remember my mom would always holler upstairs like, dinner's ready, and all this stuff, just hollering and hollering. So even if it wasn't out of anger,
Yeah.
like all this yelling and like a loud volume and the noise. And that could also be subconsciously, because you don't know you're doing it, right? Because it's in your subconscious. But like, think of it when you're interacting with someone. Are you interacting with the being that they are, that soul that they are, or the stories that you're attaching to that, to like their meat suit, to the person, the physicality, right?
Wow, Natalie. Yeah. Yeah. Because you said the yelling. Like, I'm yelling to them because I already have an assumption that I'm going to have to yell
Yeah.
because they won't listen. They won't, you know what I mean?
Right?
I
Yeah. But
won't.
then that you're stuck in that cycle, and it's so hard to stop. It is so hard to stop because it's hard to stop that assumption of, I'm going to yell at them anyways, or there's going to be, they're going to holler down at me anyways, or they're going to argue, or they're going to say no.
So I'm going to one up them now.
But you don't know that because that doesn't even exist,
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to one up it.
What exists right now is you with your eyes on the plate on the table, feeling uncomfortable because something triggered you, like a plate triggered you, right? A plate is pissing you off. So it's just like, okay, here's a choice, right?
I'm like, my mind,
I
it's
just,
like all the drama that happens in this household, and I know that I am responsible for some of that. It gets mirrored back to me constantly, and I just like hate it, and I'm so angry at it, and I'm realizing another spot, like this conversation right now, what you're saying is like another spot where I can change the dynamic, but I've not been doing it because I wasn't aware. I'm aware now.
yeah,
That's
that's
all.
all it is.
I'm aware now.
Yeah.
And I've been aware of it in the, like, that example of picking up a dish or cleaning up after them. So now whenever I choose to clean up after them, I'm okay with it because I'm choosing to clean up after them.
Yeah,
Or,
you're choosing it from a place of
yeah,
love, of,
I'm like, okay,
I
I'm
love
okay
my
with doing
home.
this.
I feel like cleaning this room right
Yeah.
now because it feels like the right thing to do for
And
me.
I don't,
Maybe it doesn't feel right for you. Then leave the freaking dishes on the table.
yeah,
Who cares, right? Because that's another story that we have
yeah,
of we need to clean up right away. And I mean, don't, I'm not saying, having a pigsty in the house is a good thing because it's not. But I mean, again, ask yourself, what's the right action here?
that's right.
Maybe it's to fix yourself a cup of tea before you clean up,
Yeah,
right?
or before you call up to them to clean it up and ask them to clean it up
Yeah,
before you
yeah,
ignore it. Like, yeah, whatever you choose to do. And Jordan's right,
yeah,
unlearning behavior. That's the journey, man. It's unlearning the behavior. And it is
yeah,
hard. It's the hardest thing to do because a behavior, we are not our behaviors, but they're so ingrained in us. They're so conditioned. They're so
yeah,
deeply embedded in our everyday, especially as moms and every day running a household every day.
yeah, yeah,
Like I feel like I'm in this behavior entrapment of like drama in my household.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head here, Jordan. It is the hardest thing to do. Like, this is unlearning behavior is literally the most difficult thing to do about this human
Yeah.
experience. But that's the whole experience. So sometimes what I think, especially like, today we're talking about assumptions and everything, and just again, kind of like that cycle that we're stuck in as moms of, we're in the house, we wake up in the morning, we do this, this, and this. When you notice that you're like, oh, I always do this every day. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it doesn't matter. But think of it more as like a computer program, that it's not actually you, right?
Yes.
It's just a
The
little file
program in
that you
there.
have in your head. So you can choose to be like, you know what, this file serves me. This computer program serves me. I'm going to keep it. Let's keep loading the dishwasher. I don't know, run dishes, right? And then, but then maybe you're like, ooh, I don't like the way I feel, right? Like I'm getting irritated at, I don't know, the cups in the kid's room or something. I don't like this. I don't like this program. I don't like this computer program. I've seen it. I can now delete it,
What would feel
right?
better? This is the moment you notice you're annoyed or it doesn't feel good. That is the moment
Yeah,
of awareness. That's the moment of awareness.
yeah,
And that's the moment to say, okay, what is the next heart led right action that I can take from here
yeah,
in this moment?
yeah. Because that irritation or that frustration or like exasperation, that's like your higher self, like being like, poke,
Out of
poke,
alignment.
Ange, poke, poke, Jordan, poke, poke, Natalie. This is the thing that you're like, how you're like, what can I do next? Or how can I like wake up more? Well,
Right
this is the
here.
thing.
Right here.
And it's the little things, like the plate on the table. We're like, no, that's not, and that's not spiritual. That's not it. But it
It
is.
is.
It's a program. Our reaction to it is that program. Do you want to keep that computer program? Maybe you do. Not for me to say. Maybe you don't. But just recognize that you have the choice.
So powerful. So powerful. Like, that's it. I love how you bring that to spirituality too. Like, spirituality isn't this trend, right? Spirituality
Yeah.
is our everyday living. It's in our everyday living. Everything we experience, every interaction with a thing a person, you know, with our environment, anything, is an opportunity to awaken, which is the spiritual journey.
Yeah,
That is the spiritual journey.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We always think, there's still this myth of, I have to go away to like, actually become a monk, or maybe not something that drastic, but I have to, go for a weekend getaway or whatever, or do like all
I
these
have to go to
workshops to
Thailand.
become, to like dive deeper into the spiritual thing. Well, you know what? I mean, again, we chose to become mothers, right? I really believe that. And it's a lot tougher. I mean, it's a lot easier for the monks up in the mountains and stuff to be more zen because they have a schedule. They just eat their rice. It's very like boom, boom, boom. Yeah, anybody can be a lot more aware of that in that environment, right? But when you're bombarded with all these little people depending on you, when you've got a full-time job, when you got to drive here and there, and you're your mom, it's a lot more difficult to be aware. But the gift on the other side of that awareness is going to be that much bigger.
Huge. Like, let's just take a moment to be like, we fucking rock. We chose this
Yeah,
fucking path. Like, I don't
yeah,
know. To me, like, we're hardcore spiritual beings, guys. Like,
we are.
we
We are.
fucking
This is like
chose this.
hardcore level,
Yes, we were like,
you
yeah,
know?
give me the mom job. Yeah, give me that one. Give me that
Yeah,
role.
with all the expectations, all the programs to step out of. And
Yes.
then we're also leading our children, however, wherever their path is, we are just we are leaders, and it's hard to be leaders. It is it is like true leaders. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about, society's definition of what a leader, but true leaders are stepping out of the box, stepping onto a new path,
Yeah.
doing things completely different, being the first to wake up
Being
in your
freaking
family,
bold.
in your yeah, it is hard.
It's so hard.
It is so hard because everything else externally is telling you the opposite of what we're discussing.
Yeah. Right?
So yeah, it's hard. We are hardcore.
We're
We are
fucking
hardcore MS.
hardcore. We are. Like, we were spiritual beings. Like, imagine the three of us, even, like you, me, and Jordan, like in spiritual realm. Like, yeah, I'll meet you down there, man. Like, we're gonna be moms.
Right?
Like, I'll meet you down there and we'll talk about how hard this is. Like, because it's hard.
Yeah, yeah. And also the spiritual significance of that, the feminine masculine energy
Mm.
trying to be more balanced, right?
Well, I quit.
Why do you
Mama's
think we
tired
chose
of
to become
mumming.
moms, right?
I know, I
She's
know.
tired of
Don't
momming,
quit. Don't
yeah.
quit. That's why we're having these conversations, so we don't quit.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about assumptions, right? Like, I mean, I know a big one for me is, and I mean, probably everybody with more than one kid, is that assumption of how your children interact with one another, right? Of like, I can't believe that one just said that because like A, B, C, D, E, F, G is going to
And
happen.
we're
And it's
because
like, and
we're
then,
applying our experience to that little
yeah,
being's experience, but that's not that little being's
yeah,
experience.
yeah. So then there's a couple things that happen. I mean, first of all, it makes us feel like shit, right? We're like reinforcing that negative energy of that, like, the conflict or whatever. We're reinforcing that energy. We're not letting it go. And then everything is also reflected, right? So if we're feeling conflicted about something inside of us, whether or not we know it or not, because if it's in your subconscious, you don't know what the
Yeah,
hell is going on in there. But that's why conflict shows up in your life,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, in Brain Game, a program that I'm taking right now, it's called mirror neurons, and it's a scientific thing. Like, we have neurons, and they are called mirroring neurons. And so whatever it is that's held in our unconscious, these mirror neurons projected into our experience. And
Yeah.
assume assume. It's interesting. That's what they do. They assume. And it's for our
Yeah.
awakening, though. These mirrors are for our awakening.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, yeah.
Mm.
You know, one of the big assumptions, I think, in relationships and as a mom, assuming that we can change people.
Oh,
Assuming that our love is just enough to change people. It's that control, the mechanism of control, disguised
yeah.
through assumptions.
Wow. Whew, that one hit deep with me. Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
Well, hi, Rosalie. Sorry,
Oh, hi,
we're
Rosalie.
throwing you off. Last week it was like, hey, we're gonna go live. Hey, oh no, no, we're not gonna go live. Oh, we're gonna go live. No, not gonna go live. And then it was like 15 minutes beforehand. Oh, we're going live in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, yeah, so Rosalie, just for your benefit, we're talking about assumptions that a lot of moms, well, every human being holds, but specifically moms. And are you, is your relationship based on those assumptions that you hold on that you have with that person? Or because our goal should be having a relationship with that human being, right? And that's hard. That's hard to see the soul, like the real, the essence, the source of that person. Because there's all these, first of all, there's the physicality, right? We look at them, we're like, oh, it's our child, or it's our husband. And then there's these stories that are automatically come flooding in, right? Whether they're, and the different stories for different circumstances, right? Maybe it's a different story when they're in the car than as opposed to, when they're helping you fold laundry or whatever. But can we slowly step out of the relationship with the assumptions and step more into the relationship of, this is a little child, or my partner in life. We're all souls, right? Can you look past these assumptions and just the stories that are, we kind of like plaster on like sticky notes? Can you look past that and actually like work on the relationship with that being?
Yeah. And we do it so unconsciously. I even did it.
Yeah.
I even noticed like I did it. Rosalie comes on and I'm like, I'm so sorry about what happened last time, assuming like she's upset with me, right? And that comes from an
Yeah.
assumption. So now I'm behaving out of an assumption rather than as a true relation to Rosalie.
Uh,
I've just added
wow.
I've just added an energy that wasn't necessary.
Yeah. Especially apologizing, right?
Yeah, we do
As
that.
moms, it is like
We
Canadians, right? It's just like this
yeah.
culture of like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, instead of like,
Yes.
often, and I don't know, I think maybe you spoke about this years ago with me, of instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late. Like,
Thank
oh,
you.
thank you so much for your
Thank you so
patience. Thanks
much.
for waiting. You know,
Yeah.
or thanks for meeting me. Can I get, I'll get you a coffee or something,
Yeah.
right?
It's such a powerful practice that's been one of the most significant small shifts that I've made that has made a significant difference in the energy.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's how we,
yeah.
that's how we create drama. Like me making that little assumption adds an energy in that's not necessary, right? And then
Mm.
possibly moves another person into their assumptions and then
Yeah.
forces them, it's control again. Here's the energy of control, the mechanism and the energy and consciousness of control forces that person into saying, oh no, it's all good, right? It's okay. Like, but you know what I mean? Look at infinite possibilities can happen. And there's
Yeah.
another scenario that could feel better, is basically what I'm getting at. Not that it was wrong. Not
Yeah.
that it was wrong. It's just an interaction.
No. Yeah. Yeah, but there's another, yeah, like you said, there's countless possibilities.
Hmm.
If you choose something different, you can be bringing a different energy
Yeah.
into that moment, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Here's another assumption. We assume that everyone, this is very important in the family dynamic, I think. We assume that everybody sees things the way we do in our family because we're together and we're a family.
Mm. Yeah.
instead of looking at everybody as individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody sees things so different.
Yeah, yeah,
And everybody sees people like everybody in your family sees you differently. Not that it matters what anybody thinks of you, but just I mean we're all individuals, right? All 7 billion of us, and that is such a huge assumption that we just automatically think that everybody's seeing life from our own screen, from our own point of view.
it's kind of ridiculous
But if
almost.
you think about it, that's ridiculous because they haven't had all of your experiences. Maybe they were, they could have been brought up in your same home, right? It could be your twin
Yeah.
sister. They're not going to have the same point of view as you because all those experiences that they had, like your twin sister had, filtered in through their own body, through their own mind. And all the bodies and all these minds are so individualized
It's not possible.
because we're all meant to have slightly different experiences, right?
Yeah, it's not possible. It's not possible for anyone to see it the way you see it.
No.
We can find commonalities, yeah. But even between us, like minds here, right? Like we still see things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just even from the mind and also just going a little bit deeper from a different paradigm,
Yeah,
right? You don't know where that person is, that what their point of view is, spiritually, like on a frequency. You don't know,
yeah.
right?
You don't know,
They could change from moment to moment.
yeah, and you don't know where you're,
I know that's happened to me a lot the last 2 weeks, right?
and you don't know where your wisdom's going to come from either, right? Like, what's the benefit of me assuming that you see things the way I see them? What's the benefit of that? There is no benefit. The
Yeah.
fact that you see things differently than I do benefits me because we share wisdom. That's one of my passions, is bringing people into community and share wisdom, right? Because you've already shared some things with me in this conversation that have blown my mind open. Like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's coming in now is assumptions are often tied to control, right?
Yes,
Assumption is all about
it
control.
is.
And the opposite of assumption, just, letting it go or just letting them be, that's harmonious, right? Which is what we strive to do, is live in harmony. It doesn't matter if everybody has a different point of view. It doesn't matter, what their opinions are. I mean, everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but can we find, and this is really important as moms living in families, can we find a way to live harmoniously with people that have different, I mean, everybody has a different viewpoint. How can we discover how to live harmoniously with all these different types of people, right?
And that leads me back to what we were talking about in the beginning, about noticing, noticing when you're uncomfortable with something in your household, and in
Yeah,
noticing that there might be an assumption here, even if you don't know what the assumption is, might be an assumption. That's
yeah,
why I don't feel good, because I'm thinking something that doesn't make me feel good, right? Could be a
hmm,
story. What's the next right action from here?
yeah, yeah. And it's okay. Yeah, it's okay if you don't know what the assumption
Yeah,
is
you
because
don't need to
often
know
it's
it.
buried so far deep down. But as we constantly bring awareness to it, just that we're aware of it, we notice it, right? That
Mm-hmm.
shines a little bit of a light. And then eventually one day, you're going to be meditating or journaling or just walking or just doing the dishes, something random, and then boom, it'll come in and you'll be like, whoa, that's what it is. And then when you understand it, then you can look at it,
Deeper.
you can love it, you can love, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, you were saying, I love myself through
Yes.
this. Like, okay, that's an assumption that I've held perhaps all my life. Okay, do I still want to hold on to it? Do I not? What's the right action for me? And then just love yourself through it,
Yeah.
right? This doesn't happen instantly, guys. I mean, we live like in super slow mo here on Earth, like super slow
Super
mo.
slow.
So be patient with yourself, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And you know what's coming into is in that book, The Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz, he talks about I guess I don't think he uses this word, but this is what's coming through for me is like the antidote. The antidote to assumptions is questions. Ask questions, son.
Yeah, yes.
Because we're
Questions are
so,
so much more important
yeah,
than the answers,
because,
right? They're so often we're so fixated on the answer. It's
yeah,
like, no, it's like because the wisdom comes through the
the
question that we ask ourselves.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And so,
that's,
like you can either ask yourself out loud, like what is it that I'm not seeing? Like what's the lesson that I'm not
yes.
seeing here? Or journal it. And it, especially when you start off journaling, like sometimes the mood can be really heavy. And then by the time you're done journaling, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, got so much of
Totally
that
different,
out.
right?
Yeah.
Because you ask the question. You have, we have higher selves, we have guides, we have angels, we have all this amazing team behind us. But there's also free will, so they can't just be like, "Oh, here, Angie, here's all the answers."
Exactly. It's not going to come pouring into
We
us.
have to ask the question, and it doesn't have to be specific because sometimes the best questions are, well, what feels right? Like what does my heart want to ask my higher self,
Mm.
or what's this next heart-led action that I can do, right?
That's why in tapping,
Whatever comes in, maybe it's rest. I laid down for 10 minutes yesterday because I don't know why. I was just like, I'm like, all right, something doesn't feel right. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And it was like, rest, rest. I'm like, okay. So I laid down literally 9 minutes. I opened back my eyes and I'm like, that's it.
like,
I'm like, okay. And I felt
wow,
fine. And I woke like,
I feel
and I got
better.
up, right? Like, yeah, we have to get used to like asking our bodies, asking our guides and stuff, but also asking our bodies, like, what do you need right now, right?
Yeah. I love that you said that like 9 minutes. It's like because the assumption is I need at least a half hour or 45 minutes if I'm going to rest. So as soon as the guidance came in, rest, assumptions can be made right there.
Yeah,
Like right
exactly.
there.
Oh, that's good.
Like we make assumptions like guys, man, when you start to notice this, like I'm realizing like how often we make assumptions every moment of every
Yeah,
day. Every
yeah.
moment of every day. How exhausting.
No, right? Well, then that's the thing too. Like, it's not all this energy that we're spending on these assumptions. Once we notice these assumptions and once we realize we have a different choice,
Yeah.
we can move that energy to something better, right? Something more heart-led, something more positive.
Yes, exhausting. Right, Rosalie? Man, like every second of every day we're making assumptions and then we're adding more assumptions onto it.
Yeah,
And then we're responding emotionally to these assumptions. Like talk about a
yeah,
loop. Like, wow, it's actually really like fascinating to me. That's the mind
yeah.
in action. That's the mind in action.
That's the mind running our lives.
Yes. We are literally getting
Yeah.
glimpses of it and how quickly it happens, how smoothly it happens, how quickly we believe it.
Yeah, because we think it's reality.
Yes, we think
We
it's
think
real.
that it's real, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
it's just a thought. It's just, again, that computer file.
Yeah.
It's not you. You are not the computer
Yeah.
file.
And so you respond to that and it's not you, it's not who you are and you behave.
Yeah, yeah. You respond as if you are that assumption, as if you are that program, that computer file.
And then
But
you
you're not.
behave.
You're just the one noticing it go by.
Wow. Oh, I love where this conversation's going. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Man. Questions too, like, this is something that's plagued me for a long time. It's felt like a plague. Is I'm afraid to ask questions, so I make assumptions. And this is what we do. The discomfort of
Mm,
asking the questions of ourselves and of others, not just like it's us too,
yeah.
asking ourselves the deep questions, right? Um, we don't want to. It's uncomfortable to ask the questions because we know we'll get the answer, right? So
Yeah.
instead, what feels safer? What is our ego trying to do? It's trying to keep us safe. The mind is trying to keep us safe, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
asking questions doesn't feel safe. So guess what we
Oh,
do?
because it makes you vulnerable.
So what we do in place of it is make assumptions.
Yeah. Mm, wow.
And I don't know if that's coming through or if that was from the book. I don't know, because I really loved that book. That book was really impactful for me.
Yeah, I'll have to pick it up again.
It's such an easy
I
read
think it's
too.
somewhere, yeah, it's somewhere in my bookcase.
But that's what we do. And so that awareness, I think, is huge. How can you get more comfortable asking questions? I feel like a
Yeah,
toddler because I have always asked why, right? And people get mad. I ask why too. Um, it used to piss
mm,
off like, oh my God, Natalie worked with me at Circles. It used to, when I was QA, it would piss off my management because I would be like, I
right.
can't coach other people unless I understand why. Like, so I would say why, and people
Yeah,
don't like it. People do not like when you probe and probe and probe. They don't like it. And so I don't like it. It's uncomfortable
yeah,
to ask the questions.
yeah. Because when someone's asking you that question, you feel, like a deer in the headlights. You feel that they're going to judge you because and if that feeling comes through to you, that, maybe you're asking me, like, why, right? And then if I have judgment about myself within myself, that's going to come out like defensively, like, why are you at the, what do you mean why?
Yes,
Because it's on the, because it's on your checklist. That's
that's why.
why, right? And then we get offended, we get defensive, we get judgmental,
There's the cycle.
right? There's that cycle. Yeah. Because we always move away from things that are painful or things that
Yes.
are uncomfortable, right? Because again, it's our mind. Our mind is trying to keep us safe. Okay, there's no wildebeest, knocking down our doors.
Yeah.
Well, not at least here in Canada. Um, so the mind just has to make shit up, right?
Just to make
It has
shit
to
up.
make shit up.
Oh my God,
It
the
makes
mind
shit
created
up because it
assumptions.
has to be
The
busy.
mind created
Because
it.
we have been, yeah, because it's been generations, hundreds of generations like this, especially in the last like couple hundred years, because we have been blessed with these amazing homes and security and electricity and running water and all these things. Most of us watching here have been blessed of, having phones and stuff. So it is so incredibly safe. The mind doesn't want to twiddle its thumbs. It wants to make up drama so that it has something to do so that it can protect us, which is fine. Again, the mind is a tool, but it's our job
To
as,
notice.
as these multidimensional beings that we are, it's our job to be like, okay, mind, I know you're trying to keep me safe, which is fine, but here are the rules. You're not in charge anymore. I am in charge.
Mhm.
And that's hard because then the mind's going to fight back. Oh, no, but there's this, and there's this, and there's
And
this, and there's blah, blah,
you
blah, and
haven't
you're going
thought
to
of
make
this.
shit
Yeah.
up.
You haven't thought of all
It
these
will go
things.
into, yeah, because the reason why it's hard, because I think Jordan mentioned this earlier, that it's so hard to change behaviors. It is because your mind wants to be in the driver's seat, and the mind knows you better than you know yourself, because the mind can access your subconscious, which is like 95%. Like, you're not aware of it, right? You don't know anything about it. It's all deep down in your noggin. The mind can access it. So then maybe, I don't know, maybe you see a red car pull into your driveway, and then I don't know, maybe something happened in your childhood. Maybe there was a robbery and it involved the red car, and then all of a sudden the mind's like, oh, let's freak her the fuck out. So she's trying to get in the driver's seat. That's my seat, right? So let's just toss all these random things. And this sounds nuts, guys, but this is what the
It
mind does,
does.
right? So if you're in, as we're trying to change these learned behaviors, keep this in mind too, that the mind is going to fight back, which is okay. Just be aware of it. Be like, oh, and maybe it's the next day, and you're like, and you stop, and you're like, holy crap, I was losing my mind. But ever since I saw that red car, I'm freaking out. I'm sweating, all this stuff. But wait, was that just my ego? Was that just my mind messing with me? And then boom, the second you realize that, you shine light
Gone.
on it, and boom, the shutters off, right? So this is hard. This is why it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And we recognize like the moment, like you could realize like as you're saying this, I'm like, wow, sometimes I'll spend like 24 hours from that one little trigger, like the red car, let's say, right? And it's like I think back
Yeah.
when you have that moment of realizing it and you shine light and it sort of just goes away, the story just goes away into the nothing.
Yeah.
you realize in that moment, wow, I just spent the last 24 hours thinking about that.
Yeah.
All the assumptions made, which is exactly why it's tiring. Jordan's saying life is a brutal cycle for
Yeah.
her, right? She's tired. I totally get
Yeah.
that, Jordan. Like, I
Yeah.
used to say it all the time to Kyle. I'm just tired, man. I'm just exhausted. I'm tired of thinking the same things. I'm tired of doing the same things. Just tired.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is it can be quick. It just takes practice. But those moments that
Yeah.
you realize how quick you can shift it, those are powerful moments.
Those are powerful moments. Yeah. Because then because first of all, you experience it for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this actually works. And it happens quickly. So then you believe, and then that's a new thought, but that's a good thought, right? That's a positive thought. That's a powerful thought
Mm.
of, and then repeated thoughts become beliefs. So now you have this powerful belief of, I can shift myself out of a shitty mood like this. I can, you know, whatever, jump paradigms like this. I can catch myself. I can catch my assumptions instantly
And make a new choice just like that.
and make a new, yeah, because you keep telling yourself that, and that is going to become your reality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And with every unlearning, you replace with
Yeah,
those powerful thoughts.
yeah, because then you create space, right? You start letting go of these assumptions, or maybe not even letting go. You just notice them more. Just in that noticing, you create space for something new. Just like just like physically creating space. So we're renovating our house, we're painting, we are decluttering, and then there's like all these beautiful items, but I'm like, we don't use them. So there's like this great local site that we just give away to the neighbors and stuff. And
Mm.
someone this morning was like, are you sure you don't want something for this? I'm like, no, you are giving me space.
Yes.
Thank you. And but that's what it is, right? And sometimes it's easier to relate to this physical
Mm.
things, right? Of, you don't need it anymore, so there you go. Just let life take it and move it to wherever it needs to go. And now you have more space in your room. You have more space in the basement. You have more light coming in, right? Maybe the boxes aren't blocking the windows anymore. There's less tiles, on the kitchen table, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Jordan, I'm just reading your fears and made it so much worse, especially now living in a place where it feels like the only one who listens and cares is my ex, which has caused more problems. And I wonder, can you look at assumptions in this case, like in what's been happening for you? What, and if you can't see what the assumptions are, you could start with what is emotionally reactive for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things we used to do in my trauma treatment group because it was hard to identify the thoughts because they're unconscious, right? The assumptions that we're making, and the mind is protecting us from uncovering the story that it's creating.
Yeah.
And so, what we would do is we would first look at the emotion. So, what am I emotionally reactive to, and how do I feel? So, maybe I feel angry. If I'm angry or frustrated, there's a scale of anger. It means that there's something unfair. So, I am having a thought that something is unfair. And that would help us to identify what the thought or the assumption was. If you're feeling shame, shame is that you're viewing yourself as bad, like you're fundamentally a bad person, a bad human. Not that you did something wrong, that's guilt. That's a healthy response to if you did something out of alignment with your values. It's a healthy response. Shame is not a healthy response. Shame is that you're taking on that there's something wrong with you and that's why there's a problem. If you're sad, if the feeling is sadness or grief, it's informing you that you have a sense of loss of something. So there's a sense of loss. So the thought, whatever the thought is behind that emotion, is that you've lost something. And again, this points to the mind makes stories up, makes assumptions. So these might not be real things, these thoughts. And so the emotions, we're taking something personally based on a thought that might just be an assumption. That makes sense. The weird thing is, this one is not my assumption. It's my partner's. Chris is a great dude, and it's sad that I'm more comfortable talking to him rather than your current partner. I assume you're speaking of, yeah. And what is that situation asking of you?
Yeah. Sometimes there's no, sometimes, our guides or our higher self, they don't give us that big answer, that big truthful answer that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes we just, again, ask, in that moment when you're feeling this, in that moment, ask yourself, okay, what's the best thing for me to do now? Maybe it's I don't know, go take a bubble bath, or maybe it's go lay down, or maybe it's just watch one of your favorite TV shows, right? Um, Maybe it's writing a letter to that person, not having to send it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's just writing a letter of what do you feel in that moment towards that person, right? And sometimes that gives us like a little bit of release. And sometimes that's all we need, right? It's these tiny increments.
Yeah. Yeah, with either of the people too, right? Your ex or your current partner
Yeah.
in each situation. And what is it that you need for you? For you, separating your
Yeah.
energy from their energy.
Yeah.
Another thing that's coming through is that I've had to go to 3 different rooms in this house just to listen to this. Right. And you choose
Yeah.
to move, right? You could also choose to ignore it, right? But you're choosing to listen to it and move. And so that tells me that there's something there for you to explore.
Yeah.
What's coming through is the question too. Like if we want to move away from the assumptions and the drama that it creates, what questions could you be asking?
Yeah. What question can I ask myself right now, right? And then, especially if we're writing it down is really powerful, guys.
Mm,
As we're writing it down, what question do I have to ask myself right now? That question may come through, or maybe it doesn't even. Sometimes it doesn't come as a question; it's more of a statement, and that's okay too.
yeah.
Um, but we don't have to like. The answer may not reveal itself in that moment. I find for me, um, it takes a couple of days, and then the answer comes.
Yeah.
Although certain things manifest super quickly, and I'm like, whoopsie doodle.
Careful
Careful what you
what you
ask.
ask. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, I find that writing, like handwriting, is kind of has kind of like collected dust in our society just because we have all these devices and we're texting and typing. But I mean, it's really like like an art form, right? And there's just so much power because it's that as you're writing, it just activates a different part of your brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the more and more you write, the more and more you get to know yourself better because it's a release of energy, right? Of pent up energy. Um, and as you're releasing more and more of that, like those heavier energies, again, you're making room for more of that wisdom to come in. There's divine wisdom all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just often we can't access it because the mind's always buzzing around and we're worrying about stuff. And these may be valid things that we're worrying about, but if we can remove a little bit of that worry, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we can write it down and then it's out, even if it's just like 0.5% out. Well, that's a lot. That's less worry than we've had previously, right? And then the more and more we do this, then there's a little bit more of that divine wisdom that can come through.
Yeah, it's true. It clears the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wonder, Jordan, is can you look at your own assumptions in your current partnership, right? Of are there any assumptions that you could change that person, right? There's a dynamic there to look at because our relationships are reflections for us. Life is happening for us, not to us. And that's it's difficult to reconcile that. But I promise anyone who seeks to reconcile that, to see how life is happening for us, what Natalie's talking about is, you put it out to the universe like, okay, I'm open to understanding how this situation is working for me, not against me. Because right now it feels like it's working against you, right, Jordan? If I'm not like mistaken. Right now this whole situation and the players feels like it's working against you. But can you reframe it to how is this working for me, universe? I'd really like to know. And that's a question you can ask and put out there. And you can journal and you can notice and just see what comes in.
Yeah.
It could come in the form of a song. It could come in a video you watch. It could come in, you know what I mean? You might pick up a book and read some quote.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might be in the shower and just suddenly something lands. And you're like, whoa, I wonder.
Yeah.
Can you get curious about that?
Yeah. Bringing a little bit more curiosity into our life,
Yeah.
right? Um, so yeah, and sometimes it's as simple as changing, and sometimes it seems so simple that it's like this ain't gonna work, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, um, why does this always happen to me? Um, as opposed to, what is this trying to teach me, right?
Yeah.
Or what is it that I'm not seeing?
Yeah. Yeah. What am I just not seeing?
Mm, yeah, and I think Rosalie mentioned earlier on communication lines can be hard to open. Yes, this is something that I deep dived into this week. Um, because often we have not been taught how to communicate properly. We've been taught to give our opinion. We've been taught to hold on to our opinions like they're life preservers, and we're in the middle of like a storm in the Pacific Ocean. But we were never taught to really like communicate from the
From the
heart
heart.
to other people.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, we are surrounded by this. We're surrounded by this lack of communication in our society, at work, in our families, how we were brought up as kids, right?
Yeah.
Because often you look at your life now and you look at, how you grew up, and it's like, okay, this is the same script. Maybe it's not the mom doing this, maybe it's the son, or maybe it's not, you know, me doing this, but it's someone else. So it's the same like TV show that you're in, just the scripts have kind of gotten mumbled and the characters are a little bit different. And a lot of that just comes from where our inability to communicate really effectively. Um, and then if you, like me personally, when something's uncomfortable, I'd get the hell away from it, right? Other people may get really aggressive. Other people may just ignore it completely and pretend everything is like fine and da 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 da. We all have different ways of avoiding things, right? And often
Yeah.
when we try and open, when we try and have communication, with our partner, um, again, because we get it's like it's not you communicating to your partner, it's your ego communicating to your partner's ego, right? Because you know how to piss them off, and we don't do this
No, it's
consciously, guys. We
totally.
don't mean to do this. We don't mean to do this. We really do want to find a resolution. um, but it's that when we just lack that awareness of, you know, oh, if I start off, this conversation with this sentence, or sometimes that what I would do before is I would rehearse everything in my head,
Yeah.
right? Which would just add to the worry and the anxiety and everything. And the, oh, but they're going to say this, and then I'm going to say this. And then you start the conversation, and then it goes a completely different way. And then you get defensive because, again, your mind's like, I got to protect this chick, right? Um, so being aware, bringing that slight amount of awareness, um, can change a little bit, but sometimes we need more help, right? Like sometimes we do need like professional counselors and therapists, and it's totally fine because, again, like I don't know how to communicate very well with my husband, right? And again, it's just different ways that we were raised, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we're kids, man, like the first 6 years of our life, we're just little sponges. We don't even know what the hell we're taking in.
It's all
We don't
just
even,
going
we
into
don't
the
know because we're so
unconscious.
young.
Yeah, it's all going in.
It's all going into the
It's all going
unconscious.
in.
And then we just figure that's how life is, you know? And even if it seems that our marriage is different than our parents' marriage were, there's all that because we don't see it, because we don't realize it, because again, we're not aware of it, right? So it's totally fine to like, again, like get some outside help. I'm a super shitty communicator with these types of relationships. Maybe you're great at communicating with others, right? Maybe you're like, well, I communicate really great with my best friend, or my cousin and I have a great relationship. I can easily communicate with them. But again, it's those specific roles that we often have trouble communicating with.
Yeah. We both have huge egos. That's me
Yeah.
and Jordan. That's me and Kyle, man. That's me and Kyle too. But we've, I don't know. How have I changed our communication? By going within. That's how I've changed it. By changing the communication I have with myself. That's been a big part of it. And because I did that, it's allowed me in my relationship to take responsibility for my communication. And instead of getting mad at him, because that's what I would do before, is make him wrong. My assumptions would make him wrong, right? And I had to defend my position, and I had to justify how I was feeling. And so I would put it on him. And now the conversation started changing where it was like, you know what, I'm really mad at you right now. And I'm like, but it's my problem. And when I started saying that to him, he would literally kind of be like, okay. And then I would literally like go away and be like, I just need to deal with it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm totally taking it out on you right now. And I
Yeah.
never needed to explain it to him. I just walked away and dealt with it myself.
Yeah.
But to be able to deal with it myself, that's where the work was. Like I had to do a lot of work with my own communication with myself. Because like you said,
Yeah.
Natalie, like communication comes with an agenda in this world. We know how to communicate
Yeah.
with an agenda. We don't know how to communicate just from love.
Wow. I love the way you phrased that.
And so there's an agenda in most of our
Yeah.
communications. There's an
Yeah.
agenda.
So can you see that agenda within yourself? Because whatever that agenda is, that's just what's being reflected back
Yeah.
to you, right? And we all have this, right?
Yeah.
We all have this, and this is part of a lesson, right? Like this week, my lesson was, hey, yeah, let's be honest, I'm a shitty communicator, and I married someone who's also a shitty communicator. But maybe we're together to figure this out
Yes.
together of
Yes.
how to be how to be more open, how to communicate better, right? And then that's like tenfold, because then you're learning something new, right? You're doing something healthy for yourself, for your relationship, and you're breaking the cycle, right? Even if it may not seem like such a negative cycle, like, oh, nobody knows how to communicate nowadays or whatever, but you're breaking that cycle, right? And healing you're healing yourself, you're healing your relationship, and you're also healing the past generational
Yes.
stuff, right? And you're helping your kids. You're setting the example for your kids of, you know what? we deserve better. As a family, we deserve better. I deserve better as a person. My husband deserves better. Our children deserve better, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many added benefits. And again, this is really hard to do. Not everybody's stepping out of this box. Not everybody is even willing to look at themselves like this, through this lens. It's really hard, but it's also really worth it.
Yeah. And you should celebrate, Jordan, that you're willing to look at it. You're willing to even talk about
Yeah,
it.
just the fact
You're
that you're
even
willing to
willing
look
to
at
say,
it.
I want to learn that behavior. You will. You will. Because I did too. I wanted to learn it too. You will. It will arrive for you.
Yeah.
It is arriving for you, I would even say. Well, thank you, Jordan, for bringing that up. Like, it's really important,
Yeah.
man. This assumptions really affect our relationships. And we could have such thriving, really great relationships, even the ones that are maybe, remember, our relationships are reflections of us, right? So when we heal assumptions, when we heal communication with an agenda, we're healing ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we are at our hour.
Yeah.
And I could go on forever with these conversations.
Yeah. This is a really great.
And not just the romantic ones, Jordan. Yeah, that's right. All our relationships, all of them. But our romantic ones are significant, very significant in our growth.
Yeah. Well, that was a great conversation today, guys.
I loved it. Thank you so much.
It's going to take a while to digest some of this stuff, I think.
I've got so much. Yeah, you opened my mind to like a huge thing that I need to journal on, meditate with. But thank you. Oh, thank you always for doing this with me.
No.
And anybody on the replay, we love you.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts.
No. And thanks for joining us. Oh.
I'm just perhaps establishing ending for a time at least. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Relationships are really interesting.
Yeah. Because again, they're a reflection of us, right? They're a reflection of things that we may not see in ourselves, or that we see and we don't want to see it, so we just ignore it. We just shove it in a dusty corner, and we're like, yeah, I'll do it next year. It's not important right now.
Or we set the ego boundary where it's like, well, just fuck you. You're out of my life completely then. That's the ego boundary, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this reflection, so you're gone.
Yeah.
But sometimes those ones will keep coming back with a different face, with a different, whatever. Yeah. And it's totally normal. You said that, Natalie, and I think that's really important to end with. It's totally normal.
Oh, it is totally normal. Yeah.
Yeah, we all communicate this way.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So love yourselves, love yourselves, love yourselves. Be gentle with yourselves, and keep getting curious.
Yeah.
That's my best advice. All right.
What a great way to end it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you, Angie. I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you too. Have a great afternoon, evening.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Have a great week, guys.
Bye.
See you later.